Welcome to Elisha's Space. We're joined by Shemitria Smith, author of Flip the Script, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, to explore the transformative power of positive thinking. Get ready to change your world from the inside out.
Welcome, audience, to Elisha's Space, the podcast where we go ahead and we have conversations around a space of authenticity on topics of mental health and faith. I am so excited to have Shemitria Smith join us on today's show. She is the author of the book, Flip the Script, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. So, Shemitria, welcome to Elisha Space Podcast.
Thank you so much, Elisha. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so grateful.
Could you start by telling us a bit about your journey and what inspired you to write the book?
So, this book has actually been on my mind, in my heart, in my spirit for about 8 to 9 years. And I would start writing the book and I would stop because life would happen and self doubt would happen. And it would be like, who do I think I am to think that I can write a book? Failure, defeat. And a couple years ago, actually about last year, God really started working with me. And he was like, I have a message that I need for you to tell. And it was funny because when I start writing the chapters, and I told people, which created accountability, and they held me accountable to it. But it was that fire that I needed. So when I finished the book and actually was able to self publish it, and when I read it now, it's like, who are these words? Who's saying these words? And I realized it was God gave me that. And
Mhm.
he gave me the words that I needed, even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst, of confusion, of trying to figure out, because at the time when I started, I had just left an abusive relationship. So dealing with, healing and whatever. But it was just like God poured into me and he allowed me to be able to create these words so I can pour into other people and who he's made me on the other side. It's like I needed this. And even just where we are right now today in society, it's like he placed this book in this moment right here. So I'm glad that I was obedient for a second.
We're thankful that you were obedient to, every God is sovereign. And so everything comes in its perfect timing. So I kind of think
Hmm.
that with God, it's never too late. Like we might think we're
Right.
behind, but He
Hmm.
knows the time and the span that it takes us to do certain things. So He
Yes.
knew it was going to happen at this time, and it was the perfect
Yes.
time, you know?
Yes. Yes.
In the book, you mainly focus on the concept of positive thinking. What do you think is the most common misconception about positive thinking?
So I think people think that positive thinking is you're always peaches and daisies and you're not looking from a real world perspective. Like I think people be like, "Oh, you're not going through what I'm going through. You haven't been through what I have to." But we're all in a battle and we're all in a
Right,
fight. But the thing
right.
about it is we have a choice and we have to choose to physically decide that I want to move toward better. We have to physically decide when we wake up in the morning that today is going to be a great day, that today is going to be a positive day, that I choose to recognize the green of the trees because God has given me the eyes to see. I choose to embrace life and whatever it is. And yes, it's going to be things that happen. And yes, it's going to be mountains that come. But I have the choice and choose to decide that I'm going to think that today is going to be good. And what you'll find out is when you move in that, it actually is good. And things will happen, traffic will happen, you'll be running late for something. There's always be the disruptions to kind of stop and switch it. And we're human, so you get in that, but you can still choose to be and decide, take a deep breath, step back, and be like, today is going to be good, and actually move in whatever that goodness. And what you'll realize is the goodness will show. It'll
Hmm.
show and reflect.
And you know something? I think a lot of times perspective affects mood. The slightest thing can shift your mood,
Right.
and that can affect how you feel about your day. So you
Mm-hmm.
wake up, you stub your toe, it hurts. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And all you can think about is your hurt toe, right?
Right.
You
Right.
miss out on, like, it's a beautiful day. You miss out
Mm-hmm.
on maybe
Mhm.
your pet coming to you to give you some affection. You miss out
Mhm.
on other small things, that make
Right.
the day a better day because you're so
Right.
focused on the toe. So it's amazing to me how much that can shift. You also had brought up about how people think they're the only ones going through that same thing. I
Mhm.
also think that it's a cognitive distortion pretty much when you
Mhm.
think you are the only one going through something because the world, even though we're a small space, we're a pretty big space. And
Right.
because we are a big space, I guarantee you there's a few other people that are thinking and going
Think
through
yes.
something similar. You
Right.
know,
Right.
you had even mentioned about your faith in the Lord. So I'll bring up the
Mhm.
scripture. Elijah, when Elijah was in the cave
Mhm.
and God was whispering to him, and he said, Lord, I'm the only one out here. I'm the only one doing this. You know what I'm talking about. And God was like, no, there's others. There's like, a few thousand.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
You are
Right.
not the only one.
Right, right. And
So,
but we honestly feel like that. We honestly feel
yeah.
nobody else understands. Nobody else can feel. And I
Mhm.
believe, sometimes when God takes us through our trials and our experiences and our lessons, he purposely put people in our lives that once we're over it, that we can actually speak into them because it's
Right.
something that we actually have gone through, and you'd be like, I don't even know why I went through that. And then when you find that person that you need to speak into, it's like, okay, God, that was why I needed to go through that. And I wanted to talk about, so in the book, I talk about, how every day we really speak in how every day won't be a good day. And I say,
Mhm.
even if somebody messes up your day, try again tomorrow. It's try again tomorrow.
Right.
I think that when we're having a bad moment doesn't have to turn into a bad week, a bad month, a bad year, because we're always in something and something is always going to happen. But it's not a personal thing against us, that happened. It's life.
My dad used to tell me every new day is a reset.
Mhm.
So you might have had something occur in your day, but just know the sun is going to come up and it's a
Yes.
reset. So it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that it's going to stay that way.
Right.
Things can turn around for you. So that's great. That's great. And a lot of times we can tend to like look at something and like hold on to it
Mhm.
instead of noticing all the other things around it, all the other balls in the air, all the other cogs in the wheel that's causing
Mhm.
us to move forward in a positive way.
Mhm. Right. And a lot of times we don't think about really at the forefront how our thoughts, our imagination, the things in our head really
Hmm.
drives a lot of the things that we see because we live whole worlds in our head that never actually come true.
Hmm.
Even with positive thinking, when something happens, if you think that even regardless of what happened, it's going to be okay. I think
Right.
when you think like that and you move like that, then you begin to search for what the solution could be versus living in the problem.
Right. So let me ask you this question. There's some of the strategies that you describe in Flip from the Script. How does it directly impact someone's journey towards positive living?
So, some of the things that I talk about in the book is validation, which is something
Hmm.
that we seek. Is especially with the onset of social media, has really just quadrupled mental thinking in the way that we move because we have lost looking for the validation of God and seeking the
Hmm.
validation of people. So this whole book is you versus you. You looking in the mirror, you having a conversation with you, really just taking some hard, real looks at yourself. Even I start the first chapter is sometimes the problem is you, which people like, wait a minute, hold up, I'm not the problem.
Hmm.
But it's this is let me ask you to be raw and vulnerable for a second to really just break down. So when we talk about validation, whose validation are you really seeking? Are you really seeking your validation? Are you seeking God's validation? Are you seeking the world's validation? Whose validation are you really seeking? But then let's talk about also forgiveness, and not just forgiveness of others, but also forgiveness of ourselves. Because a lot of the time we hold a lot of what we're hurt, what we're holding, a lot of what we project is this internal war that we have going on inside. So if we begin to look at just real, what is my gratitude? Like am I really being grateful for what it is that God has given me, or am I really walking in gratefulness? Am I really walking in forgiveness? It's a chapter, it's the way we love. A lot of times when we think about love and we think about good love and bad love, life has sometimes beaten us down based on who's giving it to us with the word love. But then when we look at love, it's like, well, how are we really loving ourselves? Because a lot of times we're projecting the love that we're not even have inside internally. And it's not only about giving it, but it's receiving it and receiving it to ourselves. So I just like to just taking some real world look at the things that really highlight and really are forefronts of what we have going on that we don't even realize is an eternal war.
Another thing I would like to add, I don't know if you added this in your book, but I
Hmm.
often mention this to my clients, is I talk about the importance of pausing, processing, and
Mm.
pivoting. When you have something come at you, maybe it was a contract that didn't go through for business. Maybe you're dealing with a family situation, or maybe anything. If you take time to pause just before you react, because a lot of
Hmm.
times we react, especially when we're high stress, right?
Yes.
We're quick to
Yes.
react. So you want to take a moment to pause,
Hmm.
gather yourself, process, take a moment to kind of see, okay, what is happening here? And
Hmm.
then pivot. Because when you give
Yes.
yourself enough grace to pause and
Hmm.
process, maybe the original way you would have reacted was very different from how you would have reacted before.
Hmm.
And sometimes that pause can help you stay married. That
Hmm.
pause can help you not cuss out your coworker. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
whole
Yes.
pause is very, very important to do,
Hmm.
just being in a space of authenticity.
Hmm.
Another suggestion I would advise regarding moving in a place of positivity is remembering that everything that you're dealing with is just for a moment.
Right.
It's not
Right.
forever. It's just for
Right.
a moment. In most situations, you're not going to be dealing with the same thing 20 years from now.
Right. Right.
You
Very
know what I
true.
mean? It's going to,
Yes.
you had a moment with your kid.
Hmm.
Believe me, you're not going to be dealing with this moment 20 years from now.
Hmm.
It will be something else. And so when you come to a place where you're realizing that things fade away, things are temporal, and
Hmm.
while it's difficult, you still have to face it. You learn not to allow that to affect your being. Like it might
Right.
be startling to you, it might be
Hmm.
upsetting to you, but it's just for a moment. It's just a
Right.
hiccup. And if you
Right.
view it as it's just a hiccup, it's like when you drive your
Hmm.
car and you hit a pothole. It's just
Hmm.
a pothole,
Very
And I
true.
think that
Very
helps to
true.
change it.
It does. I absolutely agree. And actually, even with my clients, is I like to talk, and even in the classes, I like to meditate because I
Mhm.
think that we're so running, 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 and we're in a microwave society. My business partner
Right,
tell me all the time we're in a
right.
microwave society
Absolutely.
where it's like we forget we have to slow it down. I was actually thinking this morning as I was in the shower, I was thinking how where has patience gone? Like we've lost patience because want everything so quickly. But when you think about food and a meal, usually some of the best meals are some of the things that are slow cooked.
Right,
When you
right.
think about Sunday dinner, so it's like if something as simple as that with food, it takes a while, then and of course God gives us lessons in everything, but this
Mhm.
extends to be us. You have to be patient with yourself. And it all boils down to what are you projecting out?
Right.
When something happens, if it's our immediate response, and here's the hard part, it's nobody else's fault because you decide what comes out of your mouth.
Right.
So, do you apologize later or do you really take that second to kind of slow it back and not really say everything that's out your mouth? And usually, sometimes it's not even about the problem itself. We could be going through something else and they're just the recipient, of whatever we
Mhm.
decide to give off. And is that
Mhm.
really fair?
No.
Because now
Mm-mm.
now you have to, I'm sorry I said those words, but it's been said. I'm sorry I did that, but it's been done. It's not just an immediate thing, and then you have to adjust to whatever the consequences or something is. Take, like you said, take that moment. Take that moment to really just kind of back it up and really just really choose to decide what exactly you're just going to allow to project.
Could you share an example or a story from your book or a personal experience that exemplifies a major turning point achieved through changing one's mindset?
Yes. So I always like to use myself because I feel that God has given me such a huge testimony. I think about my life sometimes, and when I talk about it, I feel like I'm talking about somebody else. But so I was married, and I was me and my ex husband. It's the relationship just didn't work, and we got divorced, and we had a house. And I remember we should have resolved it in the court, but we didn't. So years later down the line, I was living in the house, but we end up fighting for this house. And I remember praying to God, and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And he was like, I want you to let it go. And I was like, nope, that ain't the answer, God. What you want me to do? Because it was like I had I had put my blood, my sweat, my tears, even when we
Mhm,
separated and got divorced, like I took a second job just really trying to make it work. So letting it go was definitely not the answer.
mhm.
But it's funny. It was also during that time I realized that God was really, really working on me and in me and through me. And it was like when this book really just started to heavily, it was like on my mind, and I need you to move and make it happen.
Mm,
And I had this internal war going on. So it was like, how can I think positive? How can I speak positive? And I'm my foundation, the very thing that I've built my foundation on, stability, I felt was crumbling. And I remember when I finally made the decision and the agreement to God to just let it go, which was the hardest thing. It sounds easy now because I understand the other side of where God had for me. But it was the decision in that moment. It was like, let it go. And things started happening. Like the house started falling apart.
mm,
We started arguing more. But He just started like, I need for you to let this go. I need for you to let this go. And I remember when I made the decision to let it go, I didn't know what my next step was going to be because I'm built on stability. I didn't know what my next step was going to be. I really didn't know what the future held. And at that time, it was like the house costs were increasing, and it was just like what it is. But when I let it go and I really started believing the words that I was writing, when I really started moving in the words that I was writing, when I really started feeling, even in the midst of what it was of the words that God speaks and was giving me, it just got brighter, and
mm.
God just allowed things to happen. It's I now on the other side, I have a whole nother home, and it's amazing. Like the peace of God, the peace that He has provided me from that huge moment, because that was my life, it was the life that I known, but everything that He has made me on this other side is exactly who it is I'm supposed to be. And it's effortless now. The doors that He's allowing to open, like the things that He's allowing to do, like I can't even fathom, imagine, or think. Like I would have never, ever, 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 ever would thought that this book would be a fruition. Like as I never thought, because I was holding on to something. It was like you're holding on to something, with bloody fingernails. And the easiest thing was to let it go. And my book is me, my company is me. When I believe that everybody is amazing. They just forgot it somewhere along the way. It's like, and I'm here to remind you that you're
Mhm,
amazing. I'm here to remind
mhm.
you that you're rare. I'm here to remind you that you're a masterpiece. What is it that I need to do for you to understand just how great you really are? Whatever it is, I'm signing up for it. I'm with it. Let's do it, because we have to know that we're great, and how can we walk in that greatness?
That is so powerful. That was so
Dang.
powerful. But the key thing I think you said was let it go, you know?
Mhm.
And it sounds to me like you let go of something that wasn't serving you.
Right.
You let go of something that was harming you.
Mhm.
Maybe you were holding on to something because of the history, but also because maybe a little bit of get back in that too. You know what I'm saying? And letting that go was what you needed to do in order
Right.
to propel yourself forward.
Mhm.
to move
Mhm.
into a space of forgiveness and love for yourself. That's
Right.
powerful.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of times, especially when we're tied to, because I think naturally we're just hard workers. And when you tie something to something that you've worked hard for, the
Yeah.
thought of it not being there anymore, it is not even an option, because you work so hard for something and then to not have it. But then I had to realize that this wasn't my first testimony, even
Mhm.
though it was my second husband. Like, I've been in relationships before, and unfortunately some of those were abusive relationships, not with my ex-husband, but and I walked away from whole house, just for peace of mind. I left with nothing. I've
Mhm.
been homeless, and it's God still allowed me to be. I feel like sometimes that I am like Meshach Abednego that walked in the fire and I walked out without the smell of smoke. I feel that, even as
Mhm.
I stand here today, when I talk about the things that God has brought me through, like I said, I feel like sometimes I'm talking about a different person, because it's like, how did you get through that? How are you standing? How can you speak positivity when you've had people, spit in your face? They're the same people that tell you they love you. It's, how can you sit here? How can you believe that the sun is shining? How can you believe that things will be great? Why are you not sitting off in a corner somewhere? And it's just like, that's not who God is. I feel like through everything, God has just increased himself inside of me. And I'm choosing to be like, okay, God, I see you. Okay, God, you're present. Okay, God.
I didn't in the beginning talk about visionary associates.
Hmm.
Would you mind sharing with the audience about visionary associates and how does the mission of visionary associates complement the messages in your book?
So the Visionary Associates is a company that was birthed by God. Like, literally, I feel like I'm just walking in whatever it is that God tells me to do,
Right.
because everything about where I am now is everything that I said I wouldn't do. The Visionary Associate is a company that believe in you. We want to be your cheerleader. We want to support you. Do you need some life coaching? Which life coaching is different from a therapist, because we're going to talk about your goals going forward. Can we do some vision boarding? Because I don't know if you can see in my office with the light, but I love vision boarding. I think that vision board is a huge driver of what it is that we want to see moving forward. I love empowerment boards, because I believe that if we see that we're great, that we see that we're special, even in the moments where we forget, if we see it, then we can actually change our perspective and move. And I actually created a course. Again, no, I just wrote the course. God created the course. It's the Positivity to Possession course, which teaches people how to be more positive. It's a 4-week course. The Serenity Prayer is a huge component, is a huge thing in what I do in everything, whether it's the
Yeah, the
vision
Serenity
boarding,
Prayer
whether,
is very powerful.
yes, it's a driving factor in everything that I do. So even with the course, it's, how is it that you want to live? How is it that you want to see? How is it that you want to be? And every day is a beautiful day. So,
Mm.
what is it that we can do to help you be great, to help you walk in that greatness, to help you be one of your best versions? Because we have many best versions. Let me just help you walk in one of them
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
move forward with that. But I think that if we lived in a world where people actually believed in the greatness of what they are, what their purpose is, what they have inside this world, then we will move a little bit better. But unfortunately, it's a negative society, it's a negative world. Let me pour, I don't even watch TV, because I think that all of that is pouring it into you, and I don't want
Right.
that poured into me. Like, I
Right.
want life poured into me. I want greatness, I want peace, I want love, like real love. Like, I want things that are for the betterment of me poured into me. So again, I just agree with God. When I started this company, it wasn't the service. Usually if you have a product or something, it's easier to be like, here's the product. But it was like, oh wait, Shimmy, you're asking people to do the one thing that they don't want to do, which is let me put a mirror on you and focus on yourself. It's like, that's not it. But it was like, it's something that is absolutely needed. And I've worked with people and I've seen people begin to see that they are great, and in
Mm.
seeing that they're great, they've began to accept and believe that I can do it. I'm possible. I have skills. I didn't That is my passion. I didn't realize that, I have uniqueness inside of me. I didn't realize that I'm as different as my fingerprint. And so it's
Right.
been great to see people really just been able to understand that dreams are possible, and not only are they possible inside their head, but they're possible in real life. It takes work. It takes
Yes,
work,
take one.
but we're working anyway. We're working anyway. So it's like
Absolutely.
we're working
We're always
toward.
working towards something.
Yes,
What that
yes.
something is up to us, but we're always working towards something. You touched on vision boarding.
Mhm.
Can you talk about its significance and how it has led to accomplishment and happiness?
So I did my first vision board in 2017, and I
Hmm.
did my first
I'm big
vision
on
board.
vision boarding, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. I
Hmm.
did it during a time. I was actually in one of my trials, and I was actually in the abuse relationship. And everything I put on my vision board, I didn't believe, but I needed to see it. Like, I needed to see that I was special. I needed to see that I was rare. I needed to see a sunshine. I say your vision board, I like to start with close your eyes, because we all have pictures in our mind. So it's like, what are the pictures in your mind? What are the things that you think that you can do? What are the things that you can work on? And I like to talk about from right now, because we always be like, well, 20 years ago, then I could have did anything. Well, you can do anything right now. It's like, right now, from this moment, you can start. It's not over with. You didn't lose it out. It didn't pass. And I've had the gratefulness to be able to do vision board with a 80-year-old, which was actually good because he
Fun.
was like adamant about, he was like, I'm at the end, it was like nothing. And he created a beautiful vision board of places that he wanted to travel, of things that he still want to do that he didn't think that he could do. He wanted to buy a boat. I think that if we see something, we're more likely to work toward it. So what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to take more time traveling? Well, where do you want to go? It's, let's find that picture in the magazine, because if you see it, then maybe you'll work toward it to get there. And vision boards aren't annual, they are a continuous motion.
Right.
I say, it's if you have a goal or something, even if it's a building block, if you decide to make another vision board, if it's a building block onto that vision board. But if it's something that you see and it's in your mind, then God is constantly giving you a reason for you to have it. So you bring it out, you find something that reflects it. If it's, I like to put on my vision board monetary amounts, because I believe that if I see it, then I'm speaking it, I'm speaking toward it. So
Hmm.
even with my job and with work and things I do, what do I think I'm worth? Like, really, like, let me find that dollar amount and attach myself to it, so that way I know that this is what I'm moving toward. I have a goal in mind. Let me attach my goals to everything. It was so funny because I actually put a train on my vision board, because I was like, I want to take a train ride. And here's the thing with vision boards, it's however it comes, you have to be ready for how it comes. So when I put the train on my vision board, I was like, I want to get on an Amtrak. It ended up, I start singing like advertisements for a train in like North Georgia, just like an hour train ride. And it was like, I didn't get specific enough about what I wanted, because I said a train ride, and it presented a train ride. And it was actually a very beautiful ride through the mountains. But still, I just put it on the board, which means I put it on my brain, which means the vision. And then all of a sudden, now I'm getting these advertisements, for trains. It's like, it's not a coincidence,
No, it's not.
but it happens. And I believe that even with those visions, God gives us everything. So he gives us those visions. So within those visions, I know that there's a reason and a purpose behind it. And it's not just, let me just something to do. There's a
Right.
reason and a purpose behind it.
Right. I know for myself, I started doing vision boards, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. I started
Hmm.
doing them. And what I would do, audience, is I would put things I believe that were part of what I believe God put on my heart for what I was coming. So,
Mhm.
or if someone prayed for me and they would say something, I put it on my vision board. And what I would do is I would take scriptures and I would pray
Mm.
scriptures over what I saw on the vision board.
Yes. Mm.
And that catapulted a lot of manifestation for me. So that's something that I did. I didn't like
Mhm.
do it with intention. It just didn't make sense to me to have a vision board and not be praying over it. And then I wanted
Mm.
scriptures to remind me that this is
Mhm.
for me. So I
Right.
would pray scriptures around it.
I love that.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
And I think it be those good reminders. I always encourage, if you're gonna be brave enough to do a vision board, don't just stick it in the corner.
Right.
Don't just
Put it
stick
right
it
in front.
behind her. Like,
Hmm.
put it out there, because even when you create the vision board, I think it's good to just ask and pray and ask God to open your mind to what it is that He really wants you to be focused on in your vision board. What is it? Even if you don't believe it, it's possible. Anything is possible.
Right.
It's
Right.
absolutely possible. So if He allows you to see those words, if He gives you that vision, then don't you deserve to bring it out your mind? Don't you deserve to make it happen in reality? We have to learn that we deserve greatness because we are greatness. We accept what other people place on us just willingly.
Right.
So why not accept that you're great? Why not accept that you can do anything? Why not accept that you are loved? Why not accept that God made you precious? Why not accept that you're rare? It's accept it. Accept it as easily as you accept somebody telling you that you're nothing, as easily, as you accept that people's hurts placed on you defined as characteristics. No.
Mhm.
And that takes work. It takes work, you know. But again,
Absolutely.
everything takes work.
Yeah, absolutely. The course that you talked about, that sounds intriguing. Could you talk a little bit about that and how it fosters a positive mindset?
Yes. So the positive possession course, like I said, it's a 4-week course. It's 4 weeks. It's 8 classes total. And at the eighth class is actually your creation of your vision board. But what it is we take trauma, we take different things, our hindrance, things that hold us back, limited beliefs. Each week we look at a topic of something that we believe has caused a defeat in us or a roadblock. And we talk about ways that we can really think differently, speak differently, move differently within that, so that way we can see it a different way and we move it a different way. So, for example, if we're talking about limited beliefs and we believe, in roles, and I say, and I'll ask, like, what are some of our roles, because I think roles need to be defined as what roles are versus not really who we are. They are what they are, which is a role. And but not only that role, but who taught us that role? How do we
Mhm.
learn in that role? And most of the time we're learned from looking. We learn from seeing, but it doesn't mean that it was a good learn. And as you walk in that, did you unconsciously absorb it and actually moving in that way and not even realize it?
Right, right.
you know and in that way we really just expose the things that could be holding us back, so that way we can just move in it in a different way. It's kind of removing the elephant out the room,
Mhm.
identifying the elephant, and then just helping it guide its way on out the door.
Right, absolutely. Shemitri, what you're talking about is people taking back what's important to them and moving
Mhm.
forward, and the essence of that. You're really doing things in a place of empowerment.
Mhm.
I really like that. It seems like it's a theme that runs throughout. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Everything. I got my master's in education because I wanted to teach. And I remember when I went to volunteer at the school, I was like, no, I don't want to teach. And it was not because of the element. It was at that time that I got it. I had talked to the teachers and they were like, we're just teaching for the test. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to do that. I don't want to just teach for the test. And I was like, well, God, what is it that you want me to do? Because I'm getting this master's in education, like, and I thought it was to teach. And he was like, hold on. So when this company was birthed, and even when the positive possession course, when it was built, I was like, oh, that's what you want me to teach. You want me to teach people love. Like, you want me to
Mm,
teach people empowerment. So it wasn't a waste. It's I'm still utilizing it, but it was learning that what I thought that it was there for, it was actually very different from why he told me to pursue it in the first place. So it was the let me teach people how to tap into the most powerful thing inside of them, which is love. Let me teach people to tap into their greatness. Let me teach people to tap into their strength, because somewhere along the way, you forgot how strong you were. You
right,
forgot that strength was one of your major components. You forgot that power was one of the main factors in you that make you great. So when did you give it away? What can I do to help you get it back? Where did you lose it? It's in you. So what I got to do to pull it out of you? I'm right here with you. Let me partner with you.
Demetria, I have truly enjoyed our interview and our talk with this, because I believe that when you know who you are and when you know what your potential and what you're capable of doing, nothing can stop you. Nothing can
Hmm.
stop you. You don't easily receive comments that are not in alignment with who you are. You're
Right.
not easily shifted when somebody tells you, oh, you can't do that, because you
Hmm.
know this is my mission, this is my purpose, this is my reason for being. So I appreciate your book and the resources that you have out there to help people realize this, and so that they can move forward in those things. And it's not from a place of arrogance, it's more from a place of a realization of knowing yourself a little bit better. And a
Right.
lot of people, I think, they don't know who they are, and this
Hmm.
helps them to know who they
Right.
are. So I thank
Right.
you for coming on the show. If someone would like to get more information, or if they want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
So people are more than welcome to follow social media, Facebook, Instagram, The Visionary Associates. Our website is www.thevisionaryassociates.com. You can also email me at smith@thevisionaryassociates.com. I would love to be able to chat with you. I would love to be able to pour into you. And I just want to be one of those people that let me do something a little bit differently. Let me pour the greatness. Let me pull it out of you, because it's already inside of you. Let me pull it out of you. Let me partner with you. Let me help you. And I'm just here serving, doing whatever God wants me to do. It's every day. It's, God, what do you want me to do today? And I know we have to go. So one thing that I talk about in the book, because I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for getting through the day. So in the book, I talk about how at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you give yourself a high five.
Right, right.
Because you
That's
made it through the day. Usually when
absolutely
we go to bed at night, it's, oh, what I didn't do, what I got to. But if you give yourself that high five, it's, I made it. I made it through today. And that really changes how you think and how you sleep. And you sleep better. And when you wake up and open your eyes and you say, thank you, God, for this good day, and you move in that, you begin to move a little bit differently.
when I talk with people, I often talk about celebrating your milestones. See, the small things lead to greater accomplishments than the big things.
Right.
So you never dismiss the small things. So,
Hmm.
I am all for giving yourself a high five, giving yourself an attaboy, or an
Hmm.
attagirl for going through what you went through and surviving the day. Sometimes
Yes.
people are just trying to get through moment by moment, not minute
Mhm.
by minute,
Mhm.
not second by
Mhm.
second, moment by
Yes.
moment, because
Moment by
they have
moment.
so much happening for them,
Mhm.
or to them. So
Mhm.
celebrating that you made it through the day and that you get a reset the next day, that's
Yes.
something to celebrate.
Yes.
I would like to
Yes.
thank you for being on the show. Audience, of course, I'm going to have all her information in the show notes. You don't even have to ask. So I'll have all her information in the show notes. If you would like to get more information about Shemitria and her book, I want to thank you. And audience, as we close out, I just want to send you that reminder that I wish you so much good. I wish you well. And as you move forward, may you move forward in greater healing, hope, and happiness. Thanks for joining Elisha's Space.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. Now go move forward in your healing journey.